$10 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Welcome. College basketball tip-off, college basketball happy hour, 2 o'clock Eastern every Monday through Friday live here on WagerTalk TV and archived, of course, 24/7 on both YouTube. And don't forget to watch us on the WagerTalk TV app for your favorite mobile device. I'm Steve Merrill, filling in for Joe Ranieri. He's on assignment trying to keep Prez out of Super Bowl jail. Filled in for Prez earlier. He's trying to sneak into Super Bowl row, and Joe's now trailing him, trying to keep him out of trouble. Joe will be back tomorrow on Wednesday, but I'm joined by two of the best at WagerTalk.com, and that is Marco D'Angelo and Bryan Leonard. And Marco, we had you on yesterday on Wager Talk today, and you mentioned how hot you were. And I looked at the standings here the last 30 days. The only person ahead of me in win percentage, darn it, is you, Marco. So I know you've been crushing it mostly in basketball because that's the time of year it is. How are things going for you at WagerTalk.com?
I can't complain. We did have a loser last night, came up 6 points short on a total last night in the Duke Miami game. Duke couldn't shoot the ball in the ocean in the first half of that game. But hey, it's been a fantastic run and want to keep it rolling. And we got really good card tonight. Tuesday, I actually have an NBA play up already. And I'm looking at a couple college plays that we'll be adding after the show. So this is where we're at and looking forward to it. And I just got a message from on Slack from the home office. Apparently, there's another special out. I'm going to have to go look at it when you're talking to Brian. They put a special up for me, so I'll see what that's about. Maybe they slacked you and you know about it, Steve, but I'm supposed to mention it today. So I'll find out here before the show's over.
Lots of specials. In fact, there's actually a really good one I haven't mentioned all week, and that's a annual special we do every year with the Super Bowl. You can basically get, I think, through this Super Bowl and then all the way through next year's Super Bowl. So it's almost more than a year for less than $100 a month. And that's for all cappers, actually. No promo code needed. So that's another great special I haven't mentioned this week. And speaking of special, Bryan Leonard getting ready for spring training. Brian, baseball is right around the corner. You know, we talk about his basketball season, but baseball is creeping up. You've got your Cleveland Guardians, your favorite team since your youth, the Guardians. You'll be ready for some baseball. But on a serious note, you're pretty hot in basketball as well. I think college hoops on a mere 80%, 12-3 run recently.
Yeah, college basketball is going good. I talked about this a while back, and it's in revenge games in conference action. Last year did tremendous in that regard, so I told everybody to jump on board. Hopefully they did. College basketball is competing with hockey now, 69-44, I believe, in hockey. One hockey play today, two college basketball plays today. I did pass yesterday, the plane trip from hell, but back in Vegas and looking to get some more winners for everybody.
Yeah, once again on a 12-3, 80% college basketball run. So Brian has been seeing it well. Marco and myself, top 2 win percentage the last 30 days. So it's a pretty good show to be watching, guys. All three of us are seeing it really well right now in basketball. And as Brian said, great time of year. My favorite time of the year is February. And March is great. March Madness is fun, but February is where you make some money with all these second meeting, all the conference head-to-head action. And we've got some good ones to talk about tonight. Let's start off with the Big East, Marquette and UConn. Marquette traveling to UConn. And guys, you know, UConn has kind of flown under the radar all season. Obviously have performed much better than expected, hit a little bit of a lull over the past couple months. But if you look at the KenPom rankings, they're still one of the only teams up there that's been top 10 pretty much all year, consistency-wise. And they've really faded off a little bit, Marco. I'll start with you on the defensive side, because a month ago, they were one of the only two teams in the country. They were top 10, both offense and defensive efficiency. But they are starting to slip. They've got 6 losses now. They're only 10th offense, only 20th on the defensive efficiency. What are you doing with this top matchup tonight? Two teams, by the way, that are 6th and 8th right now in the KenPom rankings, Marquette and UConn.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Steve. This is the game that gave me the most trouble of the ones that we're going to cover tonight. And the reason for that is, as you said, Connecticut at the beginning of the season, nobody saw this coming from them. They started the season winning their first 14 games in a row. Then, as you said, the last few weeks here, they're 4-6. Now, obviously, that 4-6 stretch that they've had recently in the last 10 games, that's once they got into the heart of conference play. So that's what gives me a little bit of concern about Connecticut, because normally in a spot like this, I would want to take the home team and lay the reasonable number with them. But you look at this Marquette team, and they look like a live dog here. And this is one of those ones, I hate to use the old phrase, but if you put the gun to my head, which side am I going to take? I'm going to lean to Marquette. They're 10-1 straight up their last 11 games. They're 9-2 against the spread the last 11 games. And I got two stats with Connecticut that gives me concern. Connecticut is 0-6 against the spread following a conference win this year. Now, granted, that's a small sample size, but it is a trend that's happening right now. In the last two seasons, Connecticut has not been a solid money performer in conference play. They're just 12-22 against the spread in Big East play. So, with those two things that tip the scales to me to Connecticut, or excuse me, to Marquette. But as I said, this is my weakest opinion of the three we're going to cover.
Yeah, and Brian, I do a top 25 video every week for college hoops. I've been doing it for Wednesday and Saturdays, but I might have to switch that over to Tuesdays because it seems like we're getting better matchups now on Tuesdays recently than we've been getting on Wednesdays. And this is a top 25 matchup. And I just mentioned the Ken Palm rankings. Marquette 8th, they're 10th in the polls. UConn 6th in the Ken Palm. They've been consistently top 10 all year. They're only ranked 21st right now in the AP rankings. So what are your thoughts, Brian, on this UConn team? This game, of course, 6:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1, but what are you doing with UConn going forward? Are they underrated now that they've had their little bit of their lull after that hot start?
Yeah, Marco hit on it where they came out and they were just tremendous. And they struggled a little bit. I think they come back here. This is probably going to be my best bet on the show today. In fact, I know it's the best bet I've got, and it's more of a play against Marquette. I do a lot with the shot quality rankings, shot quality numbers. Marquette's on a 13-2 straight up run. They've been terrific, and one of those victories was against Connecticut. So it is a revenge game for Connecticut, but it's not one of the revenge games that I use in my handicapping. It's got to have a certain amount of criteria on it, and it just doesn't add up for Connecticut that way. But I still think this is the spot that we can get a pretty good effort out of Connecticut. When I take a look at offensive rankings, half court, shot quality, points per possession, offensively and defensively, Marquette's offense has been terrific. They're third in the country in offensive shot quality, points per possession. Problem is, defensively, they're just as bad. They're 299th defensively in that regard. So this is a team in the half court where you're going to get a lot of scoring, but unfortunately, a lot of scoring for the opposition. Connecticut's very good. They're very balanced in that regard. 35th in offense, 18th in defense in those half court shot quality, points per possession. I take a look at the shot quality games that don't match up with the way the team normally shoots. And in the first game these two played, Marquette won that game, but they won the game and they should have won, but not quite as bad. So it's a situation for myself. I think the UConn side's the right side here. Huskies 1-3 in coin flip games, and those are the games that a team has either won or lost, and the shot quality numbers just say the opposite thing. The winning percentages post game in those three losses: 64, 79, and 90. So those are three games the Huskies just did not shoot well, or the opposition shot lights out. Even though, as was mentioned, they're not as hot as they were earlier in the season, this is a good spot for them. I'm looking to fade the hotter Marquette team here and lay the 4 points with Connecticut, and that'll be my best bet on today's show.
Yeah, it's interesting, looking at the luck factor with Ken Palm. And once again, not something that's really relative to handicapping because it's about straight up wins. But there's 362 Division I teams. Connecticut's been the 308th most unlucky. Marquette, the 309th most unlucky. They're exactly next to each other in the luck rankings. Both top 10 Ken Palm, as I mentioned, but as Bryan said, huge difference on the defensive side. Connecticut 10th offense, Marquette 4th best offense, Connecticut 20th defense, Marquette 54th in defensive efficiency. And that's because they play fast. They have 97th fastest tempo. They need to score in transition. They've had some problems at time defensively this year, and this is a revenge spot for Connecticut. Brian Leonard mentioned he likes UConn in this one. Brian, I'm going to throw it back over to you for this next game, and it comes in the Big Ten. We're going to look at Maryland at Michigan State. And by the way, that UConn game, UConn is about open 4.5, is currently 4.5. Totals dropped 151.5 down to 147. But let's look at this Maryland Michigan State game here tonight on Tuesday as well. This goes at 9 o'clock Eastern, a little bit on the later card. Money's coming on Michigan State. They opened as a 2-point favorite. It's now a solid 3.5 across the board. I've seen some of the leading indicator books around the world now go to -4. So if you like Michigan State, might want to grab the 3.5 now. If you like Maryland, maybe wait on the 4. Total, Brian, has dropped from 132.5 down to 131 in most locations. What are you doing with this game, Maryland, Michigan State?
Really interesting handicap here. You can go a lot of ways in this game, and I see that this will probably bring in a pretty good amount of money for the books because there's reason to play both sides. Maryland's problem is they're 2-4 straight up on the road, and we seem to have a lot of games in which the day I'm on this show we talk about Maryland, and they're usually playing on the road. 2-4 straight up on the road, but they just blew out Minnesota on the road. I don't care who you're playing. You've been by 35 points on the road, hold the opposition on their home court to 46 points. That's pretty impressive. So I'm thinking we may be a little bit ahead of the turnaround here for Maryland if you can buy into their last game on the road, which was, as I mentioned, very impressive, winning in Minnesota. Michigan State, 9-2 straight up in coin flip games. I talked about that with Connecticut. They're 1-3. Only one of those 9 victories had a 46% or higher post-game winning percentage. So they've been very lucky in these games, these close games that could go either way. In fact, I believe they have a losing record if it's not one of these coin flip games. So if the coin flip games turned out the way they should, Michigan State, there's no way they would be a favorite here because the record is a lot better because of those luck factors in those games. They are off back-to-back road losses to Purdue and Rutgers, probably the two of the best Big Ten home courts in college basketball. So, situation with Michigan State, I just don't think they're very good. The Terrapins are clearly the better team catching the points here, which should be a bargain. But how do you deal with the home-road dichotomy for this Maryland team? They've just crushed everybody at home all season, only 2-4 straight up on the road. Something's got to give here. We saw the very same thing happen in the NHL earlier this year where the Vegas Golden Knights couldn't win at home and they were crushing on the road. Well, now they can't even win on the road. So a lot of times you just need a bigger sample size. Is this the sample size we use for Maryland here? If it is, there's no way in hell I'm laying 4 points with Michigan State, who is not as good a team as Maryland is. But until Maryland could turn it around, I just can't put my money on it on the road.
Yeah, Marco, home court's probably strongest in college hoops of any sport. Home advantage of any sport is probably college basketball. So we do see home road dichotomies like Brian's talking about. Maryland's interesting, though. They are a solid 10-1 straight up at home, 4-6 on road neutral games. But I'm looking at the breakdown. They allow 41.5% shooting basically in both spots. On the season, they're about a 1.5 worse shooting offensively on the road, which is what you normally see. How much stock do you put into their weakness on the road? This is a team, by the way, that's 16-7 against the spread this year, and they've covered 6 straight games. Only 2 of those were away from home, though, and they were one was at Purdue, who's just number 1 this past week. They did pull the upset at Purdue. That was a good road win. And then, of course, they blew out Minnesota in their last game. So it does look like maybe Maryland's turning the corner a little bit. Yet the money is coming in on Michigan State on this one. Which way are you leaning?
Yeah, that Purdue game, they actually lost but covered. They lost by 3 at Purdue, but easily
Correct.
covered
Yeah,
the spread.
ATS win. Correct. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The point that they've covered 6 in a row is the big where I'm going to start with this game, and that's why I think when you first look at this game, and looks like this is going to be the day of me and Brian going head to head on plays because I'm on the other side here. I like Michigan State. And I did say in the first one I had a weak opinion, but here I actually have a stronger opinion on Michigan State. And the reason being is buy low, sell high. And right now, the market definitely is all over Maryland because of the 6-game winning streak against the spread, coming off that blowout win, as Bryan mentioned on Saturday. You win like that on the road, and then you turn around and play in 3 days later in a second road game. You got to put up the old fat and sassy alert. And I'm going to look at Michigan State. There's no question that this Michigan State team on paper doesn't look good. I mean, they're only 2-6 in their last what is it 2-5, excuse me. And you look at the streak that they've had. This is a team 2-5 straight up its last 7 games. If you dig deeper, though, 4 of the 5 losses were on the road. We talk about that home road dichotomy. Definitely, Michigan State's not good on the road either. And the other loss was a 1-point loss at home to Purdue. And we know that they're the best team in the Big Ten, in best team maybe in the country. They are ranked number 1. So I'm going to give them a pass on those losses. And we'll look at this Michigan State team. And how many times have you seen the Michigan State team just hovering around here as we enter February? Maybe a few games over 500. And you say, oh, is this the year, Izzo's not going to, make that run to the dance and everything else? Well, the reason for it is go back and look at the beginning of the season and look at who Michigan State played. Tom Izzo's been a coach his entire career. He's never scheduled a bunch of cupcakes at the beginning of the season. He wants to get his team ready for the second half of the season, toughen them up, make their run, get better as the season goes on, and then they're a hard out come in March. They opened the season this year. They had a stretch where they played in a row Gonzaga, Kentucky, Villanova, Alabama, and Oregon. Now, granted, Villanova's down this year from what they've been in the past, but the other teams are quality teams. Oregon may be a notch below where they normally are, but still, that's a murderer's row to start the season all in a row. And I think it's going to serve them well later in the season. And I think it starts tonight. Again, 2-5 the last 7's giving us line value, but the 4 teams that they lost to, if you look at it, it's the top 4 teams in the Big Ten. Maryland, is in that middle wave, in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points here tonight with Michigan State. I've got them winning by 7 or more in this one.
Yeah, and this line has risen once again. It opened Michigan State -2. It's up to 3.5 in most spots, and we are seeing some -4s out there. So if you like Michigan State, probably want to grab the 3.5 now. If you like Maryland, shop around. You can get a +4, and it's so important to shop around. If not, you might see more of them by tip-off. And this is the late game at 9 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. The Deuce. Another game at 9 o'clock Eastern, also on a big network, is on ESPN, and that's in the SEC. Going to look at this one between Arkansas and Kentucky. And Marco, I'll throw it back to you. Kentucky's a really interesting team for me as well because they've underachieved early in the season. They're starting to play better basketball. I think there's some definite upside with them. And the betting market, at least today, agrees because this line opened -3.5 overnight. It's now up to -5.5. I do see a -6 out there at Caesars. So once again, it looks like this line is going higher. Total has dropped a bit, opened 140.5, and it's now down to 138. I even see a 137.5, 137 at Caesars. We'll have to check that to see if those are live numbers or not, but Caesars is a bit off the other market numbers. Either way, though, Marco, money coming in on Kentucky and the under in this game for Tuesday night. What are your thoughts?
Well, the reason the money's coming in on Kentucky, as you said, it's this current streak. We've been waiting for Kentucky to start putting it together, with these blue blood programs. As I said yesterday, Steve, when we were talking on Wager Talk today, these teams don't rebuild, they just reload. And so often it takes time when you've got a new influx of players for the team to get that chemistry and put it together. And you see it all the time, with the Kansases, the Kentuckys, the North Carolinas, the Dukes, that maybe they have a slow start to November and December, and then they build momentum in January and February and peak in March. And that clearly is where Kentucky looks to be right now. Now, this winning streak ironically started after their worst game of the year. They lost to South Carolina at home as a 20-point favorite, lose outright. You're not supposed to lose games like that. And then what do? The very next game, they go on the road and they beat Tennessee as an 11-point underdog. We know Tennessee's been one of the best teams in the country all year, and they've only lost one game since then, and that was against Kansas, another blue blood in that Big 12 SEC challenge. So, yes, I can understand the money coming to Kentucky, but I'm not going to do it. And I do think that this is a game that's going to go right down to the wire. I have it as a 1 to 3 point game either way. So, in that scenario, that's going to have me looking at the dog. What else is going to have me looking at the dog? And it's something I do in football and I do it in basketball as well. Arkansas plays tenacious defense. If I can get the better defense getting points, I'm going to do that almost all the time. And to me, Arkansas has the better defense. I think they're able to keep this game close all the way. And it comes down to who makes the last couple shots in that final minute. Give me Arkansas plus the points for the show.
Yeah, Brian. I mean, this is obviously a 2-16-7 teams. If you look at the KenPom rankings, they're very close as well. 27th Arkansas, Kentucky 33rd. But as we've talked about, Kentucky playing a little bit better. These are the overall season rankings. Kentucky defensively 69th, Arkansas 13th. So we definitely get the defensive dog here with Arkansas. Is that enough to get you on the dog, or are you going to look at the home favorite here in Kentucky?
Yeah, if Arkansas can dictate the pace, the Wildcat defense in transition's been bad all year. Shot quality, point per possession, that's been their weakness. So if Arkansas can set the tone, yeah, they could win this game outright. I started the day, I thought this was going to be my best bet because I did like Kentucky, but the value's gone now. The line's gone up too high. We've got a few games here that the line has moved a little bit, a couple out of the three. So at this number, it takes me off of Kentucky because as I pointed out, that defense against in transition has not been good. But I don't want to back Arkansas. They're 3-1 in coin flip games this year. Post game winning percentages in those three victories: 42, 12, and 27. Did not deserve those victories in those coin flip games. 1-5 straight up on the road for Arkansas this season. The only win coming last time out at South Carolina, 65-63. According to the shot quality numbers, if it was based on regular shots taken in those certain spots for the talent these players have, Arkansas would have lost that game by 6. So they got a victory on the road, but they didn't deserve it. As you mentioned, Kentucky's peaking right now, won 6 of 7. The only loss was against Kansas. Post-game winning percentage for Kentucky in that game, 54%. So they played very well. They just didn't get the victory. Preferred the Kentucky side. But this line has gone up too high now. I just can't bet it. So I'll be sitting this one out. And I guess I'll have to root for Marco because I'm rooting against him in the other ones.
Yeah, Marco, we tried to get Dwayne Bryan on today to root against you in all the games, but Brian's done a fairly decent job filling in for him on the contrarian side. But that's what makes a market, right? We got to have two-way action to make all these markets. And
Yep.
so far, at least from the line moves, it does look like the money's been coming in on Kentucky. Once again, open 3.5 up to 5.5 now across the board. And total has dropped a couple points down from 140.5 down to 138. That's on ESPN at 9 Eastern tonight on Tuesday. All right, let's look at some top plays for the show here. We're going to get to the Gold Sheet play of the day here in a little bit. But first, I want to get a couple best bets from each of you gentlemen. And Marco, I'll start with you. You said there's a big promo at WagerTalk.com, and it is live right now. And boy, did I not know it involves Rob Vino and you. It's a 2-for-1 package deal. Marco, tell us about that, and also give us a best bet for the show.
Yeah, guys, like I said, I just found out about it moments before the show started. They sent it out, and apparently you can get the rest of college basketball of both me and Rob Vino, two guys that are doing well in college basketball right now, for $340. That's not for one person; that's for both. So head over to WagerTalk to check that out. You can find this package on my homepage and Rob's homepage. Guys, that's less than $1 a day basically for the two guys the rest of the way in college basketball. So $20 a week, I think it comes out to 20 something a week. Check it out. All the details are on my homepage, and knock on wood, let's keep this winning streak going. It's been a fun couple of months here for me, especially the last month.
Marco, give us something to look at tonight. Maybe a game we've touched on, maybe a game we haven't. What are you looking at here for the viewers for a free best bet for the show?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the Big 12. And Steve, as we did yesterday on Wager Talk today, I went with Kansas against Texas because I said I didn't like the spot that Texas was in last night. I went with Texas on Saturday, and they played this Kansas State team. Why I went with Texas on Saturday is because I was playing against Kansas State. I thought it was a bad scheduling spot for Kansas State on Saturday. The old adage, I felt they were going to lose the Kansas game twice, and they very well did. They lost to Kansas in that rivalry midweek and then had to turn around and play on Saturday against a very good Texas team. Now, Kansas State, they're 2 games removed from that Kansas game. I look for a big effort tonight, and they are playing with revenge. And first thing I'll say about revenge, as I say every time I mention it, it is the most overused word in sports betting, but I have to have a reason. And, the automatics are if you ended somebody's season, I'm going to look at that revenge spot. But I like to go back and look at second meetings and what happened in the first meeting. If there's something in there that I could say, hey, that's why they lost that game, I'm going to go ahead and take them in revenge. And what sticks out like a sore thumb to me was the fact that TCU, when they played Kansas State at home earlier in the year, it was the game before Kansas State was going to host Kansas. I think they got caught looking ahead to that big game with Kansas, which they ended up winning that game a few days later. They're not going to be in that frame of mind. They're going to be in the complete opposite. There's no look ahead. They're coming off back-to-back losses. You're going to get a totally focused team. Kansas State plays well at home. I'm going to look for them to bounce back, and people are going to look and say they lost on Saturday. How are they going to beat TCU, who's playing well? Well, you'll see it tonight. TCU is another one of those teams that generally plays better at home than they do on road. I followed them for Jamie Dixon for so many years when he was with the Pitt Panthers as the head coach. This is a spot I do not like Jamie Dixon in, and I'm going with my best bet, Kansas State. Look for them to roll big tonight. I'm sure I'll have Kelly rooting along with me on this one.
Kansas State Wildcat alum Kelly Stewart will be pulling for you tonight, and that's the Kansas State for Marco's play of the day here on the show. And Bryan, he mentioned revenge. I think you've got a game that kind of fits a revenge situation tonight as well for your best bet.
Yeah, it doesn't fit into the one I use for my best bets, but it's a pretty quality revenge spot here for UConn. Talked about it earlier. If you want the information, just go back and rewind a little bit. I'll keep this nice and short because I'm on the show with Marco D'Angelo, and we all know every show Marco's on goes long. I don't know why. It must be just a coincidence. I have no idea. But I'm going to stick with the UConn minus the points against Marquette as my best bet. 1 NHL play up right now, 2 college basketball plays, 12-3 college basketball, and 69-44 NHL number 1 last 5+ years in NHL net profit.
Not too shabby. And Brian Leonard on a 12-3, 80% college basketball run. And as you can tell today, he knows his stuff when it comes to college hoops. We're going to look at the Gold Sheet. That's our third guest today, the Gold Sheet. And we're going to look at the Gold Sheet's play of the day. And that comes in a game tonight in the SEC. We're going to look at Texas A&M from the Gold Sheet play of the day. And this is a matchup here where Texas A&M's defense has held Auburn to an average of just 66.5 points the last 4 meetings. Tigers are shooting just 27% from three-point range in conference play this year. And A&M won the first meeting by 16 points and presents a number of matchup problems. So this is a situation where the Gold Sheet is saying revenge will not be served cold, and they like Texas A&M as the small favorite tonight in the SEC. Gold Sheet play of the day, Texas A&M Aggies get it done. All right, I'm going to look at an additional free play here for the show. Going to look at a free play in college hoops tonight on Tuesday, a late night game here in just a moment. Quick reminder, it is a strong and deep. We have 4 head-to-head top 25 matchups. There's some excellent value on the card tonight on Tuesday, and I've been running really well. In fact, all sports so far this year, 2023, I am number 1 at WagerTalk.com in all sports sides. That's both football and basketball. One, mostly basketball because that's the time of year, up 57.5 units. And I've got 3 strong college basketball best bets tonight on Tuesday. Get them each for 25 or make a 3-pack for 29. That's a fantastic value right now for Steve Merrill at WagerTalk.com. One game that was just a bit outside for making the cut is the Virginia Cavaliers. We're going to look at what I think is one of the best teams in college basketball in a focused spot after losing this past Saturday to their in-state rival at Virginia Tech. But keep in mind, Virginia Tech went off as a slight favorite in that game. It was a quality loss, and it snapped a 7-game win streak for the Cavaliers. They're now back at home against an NC State team that has won 4 straight, so they're not going to overlook this game tonight. I think it's a good bounce-back spot for Virginia. No revenge here, but they do have a recent meeting revenge spot from last season in which they lost by 14 on the road at NC State. They also lost the season before at home as an 11.5-point favorite by 7 outright. So double revenge from the last 2 seasons. Not an angle I use really heavily in college hoops, but I think it's an extra benefit here for Virginia to be focused. The fact they haven't beaten State the last couple years and coming off that loss against a good team on the road, I think this is a prime bounce back spot for one of the best defensive teams and one of the best three-point shooting teams in college basketball. Take a look at the Virginia Cavaliers tonight, -7. That's on the ACC network at 9 Eastern. And don't forget, 3 games were much stronger tonight. I got 3 official best bets as we continue to roll with the number 1 ranked units won, 57.5 units won on basketball and football side so far this year. And I've got 3 of them tonight. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. That will do it for the show today on Tuesday. Joe Ranieri will be back tomorrow on Wednesday hosting. And I want to thank once again Marco D'Angelo and Brian Leonard. Let's recap the best bets on the way out if we can for the show today. And that was Marco's best bet on Kansas State -5. Brian Leonard likes Connecticut -4. That's an early tip-off, by the way, at 6:30 Eastern tonight. Myself, Steve Merrill, I like Virginia -7. And the Gold Sheet is looking at Texas A&M -3. Those are our plays of the day here for Tuesday's happy hour tip-off show on Wager Talk TV. Quick reminder, by the way, if you're watching this live, thanks for joining us in the chat. If you're on the replay, leave some comments below. Let us know your best bets for tonight on Tuesday, your thoughts on the best teams in college basketball, maybe some under-the-radar teams as well, some teams to keep an eye on that can make us some money down the stretch. Give it a thumbs up, a like, and don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when all the shows and videos go live. I'll be guest hosting Wager Talk today each and every day this week. It's a press-free zone, so you are safe to watch Monday through Friday with me and Teddy Covers. Also, NBA Tip-Off will be on at 4:15 Eastern here in about an hour and a half. Hit that bell for an instant alert also when my NFL Fade the Public Super Bowl edition video goes live later this week. Thanks for watching. Best of luck. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll talk to you again soon right here on Wager Talk TV.
Lock in all sports, all plays, all 5% best bets from now until Super Bowl 58 on February 11, 2024. From your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo handicapper for only $11.99 versus the regular price of $19.99 for a total savings of $800. This limited time super discount basically is 52 weeks at $23 per week, less than the price of one 4% play, coming out to only $3.29 per day. With the cost of a 30-day all-access priced at $2.99, it is almost like getting 8 30-day all-access passes at no additional cost. As an added bonus, your all-access starts immediately, so the sooner you buy before Super Bowl, the more additional days you get for free.